This is Venture Capital Radio with Shannon Pearson on AM 650.
All right, thanks for joining me on Venture Capital Radio. This is Shannon Pearson, and I'm really excited to be bringing a conversation to you about graphite, which is something that's of great interest in the community of venture capital right now. And I'm joined by Paul Gill, who is the CEO of Lomido Metals. Thank you for joining me in the studio, Paul.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
Well, graphite is something that's getting a lot of focus right now and has been over the last few months. And we're going to get into that and, the projects that are in place with Lomido Metals. But before we do that, maybe you can take us through your background and what brought you to the point of becoming the CEO of Lomido.
Absolutely. It goes back for about 10 or 11 years now. We got involved, my group and I, in a small company that was about to go bankrupt, a public company that was on the lower exchange from the TSX Venture.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got involved as investors, we discovered that the management wasn't really capable of running the company as a business and as a viable business on an ongoing basis. And so we stepped up, become directors, and asked management to resign. And we took over the company and then recruited management to take on responsible roles. And as we did that, we discovered that we attracted more and more people. They loved the story of investors coming up and taking control of the situation and reaching out and contacting other people. And we drew a really good following, and we had a tough time raising money at 20 cents. We barely raised $200,000. At 25 cents, we had a bit of an easier time, raising about $225,000. And then we optioned a property in Peru that was from Rio Tinto, a large mining company. And they were walking out the door. Copper was at 70 cents. And they walking out the door of Peru said, well, we don't want to come back. We're sick of Peru. At the time, it was about 2004. So we optioned that property for a total payment of, at the end of the process, would have been $20 million. And we immediately had a good reaction. The market raised $3 million at 80 cents in practically a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And we got to $4 and then raised at $14 million at $4 within the span of about a year. So we had this amazing success story. And at the same time, we were drilling. Copper was spiking as well. So here we are, increasing the resource size that we had, and copper itself as a commodity was going up. So it was a really good time.
It's like the perfect storm.
It essentially was.
Yeah.
And you always look for those kind of opportunities. And I've since then worked on both private and public companies, and came aboard Lomido after I left Norsemont in about 2006 and 2007.
Okay.
And started building that up from the same situation. It was a delisted company.
Okay.
And promptly, as soon as we listed, 2008 came around, and
we all remember 2008.
It was a tough time, and we lost a few management members. I was a CFO at the time, and I became CEO in 2009, and we started looking at alternative metals and alternative minerals to invest in the green economy. Everyone was talking about electric cars, and we slowly got into lithium, and now we're looking at a graphite property.
Well, and you touched on a few really key points, one of which being you made reference to your group. So your team of people that you work with, professionals in the business, and the track record that you built with them with the previous experience has taken you into Lomido.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You have to have, in this business, you have to have geological talent that knows the area that you're looking in. You have to find and source those people, and part of that is just them understanding you as an individual and what your goal is. Our goal and my goal has always been to build wealth through building business, and in order to do that, we have to build a company that has a significant amount of resources in it of the particular commodity, whether it be gold or copper or graphite. And once we have that valuation argument, we can then add new members to the team that have mining experience, that have the ability to raise the 50 or $100 million that it takes to build mines. In fact, the project that Norrismont was doing in Peru sold for $500 million in 2011, and there's to Hudbay Minerals, and Hudbay is looking to spend $1 billion just to build the mine. So if they're spending $1 billion just to build a mine, imagine that it would probably be a 20 or 30 year proposition.
Yeah, and the production prospects are pretty high.
Yeah, and so we're some of our group are very happy Hudbay Minerals shareholders and looking to the future to gain revenue and dividends from that. So that's a situation that I always look for. What can we start small with and then build into something that creates wealth for the individuals? What is the best way to get return on investment? And so my criteria has always been to go in when no one's looking and purchase property and option property that we can get 100% of, and bring those people in as partners and issue them shares, because no one works harder than an owner. Someone who owns
skin in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone who has their money in will work very hard at building wealth, and they're in it for the long term. And so that's what we look for, and we've been able to source financial people, property people, geological people.
Fantastic. You're listening to Venture Capital Radio on AM 650, and I'm talking to the CEO of Lomido Metals, Mr. Paul Gill. And if you want to learn more about this company, you can go to their website, which is lomico.com. That's LOMIKO.com. And there's a lot of information, of course, there. There's also the symbol, which they trade on the Venture Exchange under LMR. That's Larry Mother Robert. So, Paul, let's talk a little bit more about Lomido specifically and the property that you're focusing on in Quebec, because that's really where the story is.
Absolutely. The story of graphite really starts in 2010 when two scientists were experimenting with different forms of graphite and came up with a structure called graphene, which they were able to produce and duplicate. And graphene is a one atom thick layer of carbon atoms shaped like a hexagon or a chicken wire formation.
Okay.
And if you can imagine manufacturing such a substance in a large scale and then stacking them on top of each other, well, this substance, thickness for thickness, is 200 times stronger than steel.
Oh, wow.
It's a superconductor, meaning that electricity passes through it very well, and at room temperature, mind you. And the other aspect of it that's very interesting is that it's highly heat resistant, and graphite itself is heat resistant and used in the steelmaking industry as well. But this graphene that they manufactured or were able to create in 2010 won these two scientists the Nobel Prize in physics. So this is how important people thought that particular discovery was. And so from there, companies came in and tried to look for very, very high grades and very high flake size of graphite, because that's how graphite's created. It's created in deposits where there's either large flakes, or it's created in more different types of deposits where it's not as valuable. But we are looking for large flake crystalline type structures that have the perfect setup for all of these different applications, whether it be in silicone replacement for silicone chips, which is what they're talking about now. Other applications in the electric vehicle as the anode or the cathode for the electric vehicle battery. And there's right now 25 or 30 different new applications coming out per year, and about 100 different patents that have been filed using graphene. So imagine all the products that'll come
Yeah,
later on.
my wheels are turning as we
So,
speak.
so what we did in 2012
Hmm.
was that we started, or 2011 actually, we started looking for graphite properties, and we optioned one from Zim2 Capital in January of 2005 or 2012.
Okay.
And the specific reason we took that particular property was the location. It was in Quebec. It was 100 kilometers or so from a producing graphite mine called Timcol, and they were able to produce at a very high grade and be able to supply graphite for the regular uses such as hockey sticks and golf
Hmm.
clubs and etc.
Hmm.
But at the same time, they're also a good source for scientists to come to create the product they need to do their tests with. And imagine this, 10 grams of graphene, if you could create it, goes for $6,000. Imagine
Wow.
that, and that's because it has to be pure. It has to
Okay.
be something that they can do scientific experiments for. So that's where the demand for this and the concept of this is all coming from. That this graphene is very highly sought after. It will be. Everyone's trying to make a product with it or create a product with it, and everyone's talking about the manufacturing of this stuff. So from the time that we optioned this property in
Hmm.
2005, the company's gone up about 300%. It's still at a reasonable price of about 12 or 13 cents now. We tried to raise money at 10 cents, offered 700,000. It came in with under 10 people. We raised 900,000.
And just to qualify that, that's not common.
Not in our situation.
No.
We had a tough time raising money on other properties simply because there was a lot of other competition. No one was after us and knocking on our doors and phoning us in the middle of the night trying
Right.
to trying to get shares of the company. But this is the kind of situation that's been created. One of the things that we did to educate people and investors and the general public about graphene and graphite was to create an infographic that describes exactly the process from carbon all the way down to the various different uses, and that's available on our website. And I think it's good to take a good look at that and try to understand that this is a product that will be around for a while and has some legs in the future.
Well, and with the having the property to be able to mine it and going through those stages, raising the capital, being able to go into production, and then the ongoing application for years to come. Because even in our conversation, my mind started to race about all the different applications that could be done just on those 3 points that you made. The strength of the product, the fact that it's a conductor. You called it a superconductor?
Yeah,
Okay.
at room temperature. I mean, this is
Okay.
this is an amazing situation. You don't often see a substance like that.
No, and it's extremely heat resistant.
Yeah.
So that.
For instance, when you're forming steel, some of the
Mhm.
consumption of graphite is in the steelmaking industry, and that's just graphite, not graphene. I mean, we have to remember there's two different substances there.
Yeah.
Graphite is just a really highly pure form of coal in essence.
Okay.
But so when you see it in a crystalline form, that's the stuff that you really need to create pure graphene with. And that's why Quebec is the center of this, because that's where everyone knows it is for sure, that crystalline structure.
So as I pointed out earlier, the perfect storm. It's a great product. You found the property that has it for sure, and the raising of capital is exceeding expectations. So.
Yeah, well, we're lucky with the product that we have, or the property that we have, because it's previously been explored. Mind you, it was explored before the recent changes in the National Instrument 43101, which requires certain things to be done. But we know that it was a good property at the time. We've done overview of all of the old work that's been done and pulled out the information and published it, and that's on our website, so people can see what was previously done, and the kind of results are very similar to some of the other products or companies that are producing now. And so what we want to do is go back there and duplicate some of the drill holes that have already been done previously to confirm those results and verify them, and then expand upon them to create a resource. And I think that's the process we're going through now, getting drill permits and getting on the land to do all of that.
To go into action. And I want to reiterate what you just said, that on the website there is a lot of information about the history of Lomido, the property specifically. So anybody interested to learn more information about this company, again, the website is lomico.com. That's LOMIKO.com. And they trade on the Venture Exchange on the symbol LMR. So Paul, I want to thank you very much for coming in and talking to me about this, because graphite is getting very exciting for a lot of people, and a lot of possibilities are sitting in front of us with this amazing product.
Yeah, we certainly have a lot of people talking about it. Newsletter writer Jim Dines just came out with a pick in graphite and picking graphite for the next big thing, and that's very, very important because he's very influential.
Yeah. Well, again, Lomido Metals, you can find them on the internet, lomico.com. Paul, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Shannon.
This is Venture Capital Radio on AM 650.